Let's get started. So, my beautiful wife, thank you very much for joining me today for this channel member special. Only channel members are going to get access to this full conversation we have, which I don't know how long it's going to be. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
We have a few points here written down just to kind of guide us through the conversation. And we did actually try a conversation.
Yeah, a month, 2 months back.
Yeah, and we tried it with a different setup, but I was really tired that day, and we ended up speaking, and it just wasn't. I just didn't. I wasn't happy with the conversation, and then it just so happened that file also got lost when I upgraded my computer.
Conveniently got lost.
It was very convenient actually that it got lost. So we decided to just redo this, and we're now doing it with this setup, which I actually think now is better than the other one.
Yeah.
The other one is just too complicated. So anyway, we spoke about a few things last time,
Yeah.
but I kind of have a general focus here, a few things I want to talk to you about. So we'll start off kind of the succession of life, marriage, and then children.
Okay.
And then I think maybe I am curious. I've spoken obviously to you about this many times, but what has it been like? What has being a wife been like for you?
So, it's funny because when you're prepping for marriage, a lot of your friends who are married say nothing really changes. Or, every now and then you get one or two of them who say, oh, a couple things change, but it's basically like just living with your best friend. Which it is. It's you're living with the person that you've now dedicated your life to, the person that you're agreeing to spend the rest of your life with, decades on decades on decades. So it is a big change. It's a lot of compromise and a lot of finding middle ground between the two of you because, before you got married, you were an individual and you were with another individual. Now, as a couple, you are...
As a married couple.
As a married couple, yeah, you are one. You're one flesh. So you can't go from, oh, I'm just going to go do my own thing and then see you later.
Yeah.
It's now, okay, how is this decision going to affect Dylan? Or how's this decision going to affect me? Or, what's the outcome going to be if I choose to do this? So it's gone from, oh, I'm just Sinead, I can do whatever I need to now we have to think about how it's going to go, what's going to happen, what we're going to do.
Yes, that place in your mind where it was always just you for your whole life, where every decision you made, the reference point was, how is this going to affect me? How is this going to benefit me? Now there's another person sitting there as well. So it's like everything you do has to be done through the framework of how is this going to make my partner feel?
Yeah, and look, that's the overarching immediate change.
Yeah.
But there is also a subliminal one that comes when you get married. It's you're not the same person you were.
Do you mean that like in the
spiritual sense?
Yeah.
It goes from,
I agree,
I'm now just this free floating body to now I have completely encompassed everything that we are, everything that you and I are, and you and I are now one.
Yeah. It can sound very woo.
It sounds completely woo. It sounds,
but it's biblical because you are united and you do become one flesh, and it's interesting that people get married and then don't have necessarily that understanding of marriage, because as a Catholic we have a very specific meaning to the word marriage. Obviously there's a lot of debate today about what is marriage, what is the definition of true marriage, and that's a big discussion, a large discussion, but I think a useful place to begin is just, okay, you can't really control necessarily the narratives out there in society about how, what like you can't control, like that guy down the street, his definition of marriage.
Yeah.
I have not really much control over how he's going to choose to define it.
Yeah.
But at the very least, you have some say over how you're going to approach it and how you're going to apply it and how you're going to try and live out
And
that
also
sacrament,
how you
right?
portray it. Yeah, like you said,
How you portray it to other people.
Because if I go around moaning and saying, oh, marriage sucks, marriage is awful, marriage is the most stressful thing I've ever done. Obviously now people are going to be very hesitant before they get married, you know, but if I show, okay, yes, it's hard, but as my husband and as a wife, this is how we portray it. It's the best thing that's ever happened to us. It's wonderful. I would recommend everyone get married. Obviously their view of marriage is going to change. They're going to be like, oh, this is something amazing. This is something that could be wonderful. This is something that could be healthy. This is something that could be, that could really change a society.
Yes, being realistic about marriage does not mean just emphasizing the negative elements. Being realistic means being true to reality, which means that you also have to emphasize the positive elements. And marriage is challenging because relationships are challenging. Any form of, even professional relationships, which shouldn't involve emotion, do, and they're challenging. So to be in a relationship with somebody that closely, on a level of commitment that deep, there are naturally challenges that come, because I actually think that, I don't think I've actually spoken to you about this, but I think that the challenges of marriage are the result of I'm going to use very like spiritual language now. It's because the souls are trying to get closer and are trying to deepen, that actually necessarily creates, that can result in friction and problems, because you are getting so intimate and so in each other's space, and so in each other's habits, and so even in each other's mindset, that you're going to find things out about the other person, and then you go, oh, actually some part of me doesn't like that, and then that's going to lead to friction. You know, it's like people get a tiny portion of this. I just will finish this point and then I'll let you jump in. People get a tiny portion of this when they, you know, ideally after marriage move in with each other. They quickly realize they've now, as I just said, they're now closer, they're more intimate in each other's space, and the kind of habits that the other person has, like leaving the towel on the floor, and I'm guilty of this, right? Leaving the towel on the floor and like not putting the toothpaste cap on. Those
Guilty of both of those things.
Yes, that's why I'm using them. It came to mind very quickly. Those are kind of like surface level conflicts, but eventually you get down to very deep-rooted issues in who the other person is, in terms of like how they see the world and their mindset. And then it's not, the way you leave the toothpaste pack open bothers me. It's more like the way you view, the way you handle rejection is holding you back, and because I love you, I want to assist you. And so the souls are like uniting ever deeper, and that actually causes that friction. What do you think of that?
Well, look, so when we were still in our early days, there was a lot of friction between the two of us, because I'm very, or maybe a little bit too blunt. And
no, you're just the right amount. Now I love it now. But in the beginning, I was so sensitive.
Yeah, but again, this is exactly what you mean.
Beta male.
Beta male.
Yeah.
Is you were a bit more sensitive, because you weren't used to someone being so harsh.
Just direct. Just direct, yeah.
And I came in with these very direct conversations, and even though I might have been wrong in those conversations, I was direct about them.
Yes. might have been the frustration. But,
yes.
But by the way, it goes both ways, because there were times where I was direct and I was blunt, but I was wrong at the same time.
Yeah. So that's why I say it's very easy to say, okay, yes, that could have been a fault that we had. But it's also, remember, frictions will naturally come up in that kind of situation anyway, because you are going from, I know how to clean my house and do my things on my own terms. When I do it, and it's done. Now someone else is coming in and their routine has to come in as well, and their energy comes in, and their belief system, their structures, their prayers, their every single thing that you can think of can be a point of contention.
In some way.
Because I can pray by myself every day on the couch, but no, we have to pray together because this is where we
you don't
pray.
make enough time to pray for me.
Exactly. We don't pray together. We don't have a situation where we sit down and you can find everything can be an argument if you are not working together.
Yes.
If you are not working as a team, you will find an argument for how he puts the toilet paper on the roll as opposed to putting it sideways or whatever.
Yes, I'm with you. Like, yeah, you can find problems where you want. So there's certain things that, like, you quickly figure out, I think, once you get married, which problems need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And so maybe there's a few categories. There's problems that need to be addressed and they're non-negotiable and you have to discuss them. And the longer you wait, the more miserable you're going to be. Then you've got another category of problems which are, I don't need to address this because perhaps the other person will fix this, or this was a one-time thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ignore it for now, and maybe in a few months they'll stop.
Yeah.
I can't think of examples right now, but I think anybody listening will know what I mean. Like, there's things in any relationship where, like, he or she does this and it's kind of annoying, but you know what? It's not a big deal. I'm just going to ignore it.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a everyday thing, I won't do anything.
Yeah.
I won't say anything. And then you've got the other category of things where it's like, this is really a non-issue. But I could, and this is adding on to your point, I could turn it into an issue.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick my battle.
Yeah, those really self-destructive people will pick on those issues.
Yeah, like tiny inconsequential
It could be,
problems.
Oh, he sits a certain way.
Yeah. Oh, you always, when we go past that shop, you always make this weird expression.
Yeah. You always look a certain way and it looks very stupid. You know, if someone really, and those are the people who you'll often hear they self-destruct in the relationship. They are so unhappy with life that they will make everyone else's life miserable.
Why do you think they do that?
So there's a few reasons. One is because they have deep-rooted issues that they have to sort out psychologically.
So the issue's with them, really. It's not with the other person.
It's almost 100% of the time them.
Yeah.
Because if you have such a huge hatred of everything, there's no possible reason that the person that you're dating or you want to get married to has that same problem with everything. Because if you hate everything from the sunshine to the fucking floor, okay, sorry.
It's okay, I'll beep it.
To the floor, to the whatever, it's not the other person, it's you.
Yeah.
If everything bothers you, it's not the other person.
Yes, it's like that lady who runs in and says, why is everybody so mean to me? And it's like, well, why are you so mean to everyone?
Yeah.
Like, it's, oh, I'm so proud of my son. He's the only one walking in the right direction in the parade. It's like, maybe he's the
problem.
He's the problem.
Yeah.
So definitely there are categories of problems. So actually what you develop when you get married is not, like, you don't become this magic... Okay, I shouldn't say that. Maybe you do improve your problem solving. But another skill that you develop is you actually begin to figure out which problems need to be addressed.
Yeah.
Like you develop a sense of compromise, a default compromise system, and you know where compromise is necessary, where it needs to be brought up, and then a verbal compromise needs to be made, and where a very clear, distinct compromise needs to be made. And another name for that, just to finish this off, is picking your battles. You develop the skill to know which battles to fight, right?
But with that being said, I'm going to say that it should be dealt with long before you get married. So that kind of thing we learned when we were in marriage preparation.
Yeah. You mean those big problems? Those must be dealt with.
So especially if you have differing views on religion or beliefs or how you intend on raising kids, that all needs to come before you get married, because
good luck. Well, good luck getting married to a Catholic if you.
But this is it.
If you have a totally different view, like if they're a committed, believing Catholic, I mean, I don't think they would
get married to someone outside of faith. Unless they were genuine. Like, genuinely
maybe if they were like open to it and they were exploring it and they were curious, then I could perhaps see it. But if they had values totally contrary to the Catholic, I doubt that they would. But anyway, I'm kind of digressing.
But the point, the reason why I mentioned that is because in our dating phase, that was a big bone of contention. I said to you, I want to raise the kids Catholic, and before you knew what Catholic was, or before you were really into it,
I knew it.
Well, not even raising the kids Catholic. I want to baptize my kids in the Catholic faith. And obviously, we hadn't discussed what faith we were going to be back then, or how we were going to raise our kids. We were still relatively new, returning to both the churches, you know.
Well, you were kind of distant from Catholicism in general, and I was distant from just religion in general.
And I was starting to go back into Catholicism, and you were starting to go back into religion, and obviously for us, that was a bone of contention. If we hadn't have figured that out, I don't think we'd be married now.
Of course, yeah.
Because
it's such a big thing.
Yeah.
It's that first category
exactly
of topics that must be addressed.
So there are things that you can't think, oh, I'm going to solve this once we get married, because it is predicated on solving before for the marriage to work.
Yeah, the success of the marriage is
based on that issue being solved.
Yeah, well,
not being solved, but at least being discussed.
Yeah, well, what I would just say is, like, if you wait till marriage and then your partner tells you, by the way, that thing we never discussed that's so important, I'm never budging on that.
Yeah.
And I refuse to, in our case, like if I just said I'm going to refuse to baptize the kids at all.
Yeah.
Like, forget a specific
faith.
group.
We're not going to...
I'm not going to introduce them to religion. I'm going to hide religion from them in the same way I would hide, like...
drugs.
You know, yeah. Then now we're married. Now you've got a big problem on your hands. Because,
okay, we're going to have kids. How are we going to resolve this? Am I going to secretly go behind your back and baptize all the kids? Because that's what I want, and you don't want it. So, and then that's going to cause a bigger fight later. Yeah. You know? So the big grouping of things that you need to talk about before you get married is kids, politics, and religion.
Yeah, and it's funny because those are the things you're taught not to talk about.
Exactly.
I don't know if I ever told you, but Chesterton was asked to write for a newspaper, and they said the only criteria if you want to write for us is you're not allowed to write about politics or religion. And Chesterton responded by saying, those are the only two things worth writing about. And then I think that same newspaper ended up hiring him, and he ended up writing for them for most of his life.
Wow.
So funny enough, people think of him as an author, but he was actually primarily a journalist. He considered himself a journalist more than anything else. To add on to the reason I say all of that is to make the point that I agree with him that really the main conversations in life are about primarily religion, because what are religious questions really dealing with? They're dealing with your relationship to reality, your relationship to when you get up out of bed in the morning and you look around the room, the way you view yourself and the way you view the world is really the most important question, because it's going to determine everything else, every other decision you make. And so that conversation about religion and how you're going to impart that worldview to your children is, for that reason, so fundamental. It is the cornerstone of how you're going to raise them, because you can't escape values.
Yeah.
You can't escape why do we do this? Why does mom say that? Why? Like, you're going to have answers that fit within a moral framework, within a value system. And so if you don't clarify that value system in advance, you might end up with two conflicting different value systems.
Yeah.
And the child is kind of stuck in between them.
Yeah.
And I don't know necessarily the psychological effects of that over the long term.
So, they're
Not good though.
they're not good. No. Especially with kids. Kids thrive off structure. So, especially if you're working in early childhood development, kids need a daily routine, daily structure. Especially, you can see it in our kid. If there is something off in her day,
Yeah.
it is like night and day between how she behaves.
Yeah. It's obvious that she needs
It's
structure.
extremely obvious. And she will even look at us when she wants to do something naughty and go, huh? Can I do it? Can I? Yeah, but
She does that.
it's because she knows that we are rule and regulation as well as fun.
Yeah, it's always testing the waters between those two extremes.
But
Where-
I mean,
yeah.
it's your favorite quote from Chesterton. Everyone sees rules like walls of a
Yes, nice. Yeah. People see rules. The full quote is that people see religion as walls of a prison, but really they're walls of a playground. So it's the same here. We're trying to give her walls in which she can play.
yeah.
So
And that's what you should, if you want to be a good parent, that's what you need to do. You need to give them structure. Obviously, there are tons of different forms of parenting right now. I am not going to focus on any which one.
we're figuring them out.
As long as
ourselves.
it's
We're
not
still-
aggressive, I'm very, so I try to avoid very aggressive forms of punishment and all of that, but she's too young to really.
Well, when is aggression ever really a good
No,
relationship?
I'm not saying aggression, but I
facilitation-
mean like
facilitator?
screaming is considered a form of aggression.
Yeah, but I mean, like, why would that be? Like, I understand raising your voice to get attention, but it's
Yeah.
not like you think that, like, screaming at someone. To me, that seems like a loss of control.
Yes.
Like, even as an adult, like, if you're talking to somebody else and you have to scream at them, to me, something's gone wrong,
Yeah.
right? But anyway,
So
there's different forms of parenting.
Going
that-
back off of that, just before we go on.
Yeah.
So, have you ever wondered why kids will annoy the nonsense out of you?
They annoy the nonsense into you.
You know why kids
Why?
do that?
Why?
Because kids are trying to make you feel how they feel.
So they feel annoyed.
They feel, if they make you feel like, I can't control this kid is driving me nuts. I've tried everything, nothing's working. I feel powerless. They're doing what they're doing because they want you to feel how they feel. And we never grow out of that.
What do you mean we never grow out of that?
So, as adults, how do you make someone else feel the way you feel? You do to them what they do to you.
Well, you can tell them.
You
I'm
can tell them.
feeling-
How often does someone tell you, "Hey, you've annoyed me"? Besides your wife or someone that you've established that relationship with,
Yeah.
they would rather make you feel the way they feel.
So it's almost like, oh, he hurt my feelings, so I'm gonna hurt
Yeah.
his feelings.
Or I'm going to make
Oh,
it really difficult for him because he annoyed me the other day and he hurt my feelings. So I'm going to make this situation very difficult for him to annoy him and do the same thing to him.
I'm thinking of like in a corporate environment, just because that's my background, like where, this guy always goes behind my back and he goes straight to the manager without consulting me. It's okay. I'm gonna
do
go
the
straight to the
same.
manager, and it's like, and let's see how he likes it. It's exactly what you're describing. So you
So-
say, so we never grow out of that.
Yeah.
Um,
But kids do
Okay.
that. Also, remember, kids don't have the same mechanisms we have to talk and discuss it and say, "Hey, this bothers me."
yeah, they can only.
So they act out. That is how they show their irritation, their frustration, their powerlessness. They act out.
Yeah.
That is them saying, "I'm uncomfortable with the situation." They cry.
That's what a tantrum is. Is that why we get so annoyed when an adult throws a tantrum?
Yeah.
Because you actually do have the tools
Yeah.
and the mechanisms to explain to
You're
us what's
acting like a
frustrating with
child.
us. Yeah, literally. And acting like a child actually does have good connotations because, Christ actually says that it's one of the, it's, you know, you need to be like a child, really. I mean, there's a reason God is Father. So there are good connotations to being childlike or being like a child.
No, there are.
But there's a domain in which being like a child is a terrible thing.
And remember, it's situational. So it's very easy for me to act like a child in a situation where I shouldn't act like a child. I can regress and act like a child in arguments because that's how I know how to handle that situation. And that's a bad form
Like
of
a
it.
bad coping
mechanism.
or
But I can also be playful with you. We can have game nights and we can do fun things where we play and we go out on a whim, or
yes,
you know, we do things in levity.
Spontaneity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is a positive aspect of acting like a child.
Yeah, and also wonder, like going outside and looking at the clouds and thinking, oh, that cloud looks like a dragon, or like that's childlike, but it's beautiful. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And in fact, you almost have to relearn that.
Yeah.
You know very well that I'm working on a script now for a new video on fairy tales.
Yeah.
And there's a line that keeps coming up that I keep finding as I'm like reading articles about it and doing research from C.S. Lewis, who says that one day you'll be old enough to read fairy tales again. And in some way you could broaden that, and it's like one day you'll be old enough to be a child again.
Yeah.
Because a child reads the fairy tale without all of the presuppositions of the adult mind.
Yeah.
And so they fully are immersed in the wonder. That's the same way they look at trees and they look at the sky. And so relearning that, being able to do that, being able to trust the world like a child trusts their parent, like you trust God the Father, is a childlike quality. So it's about taking the maturity of adulthood and taking the wonder and playfulness of childhood, and that actually is what makes you, paradoxically, that's what makes you a full adult.
The best example of that is old people. Look at old people. They are so silly.
Old people.
Old people. I mean, like people who are in their 60s, who have retired. They have nothing but, or not necessarily nothing but time, but...
Is 60s old, though, these days? 'Cause
Well,
I don't know if you know Brian Johnson. He's trying to live to 120.
Well, yes.
He's like half. He's middle-aged.
Okay,
60.
fair enough. He's middle-aged. But if you look
Like
at
literally
the,
middle of the
you
line.
look at what's considered middle age, 35 is considered middle age in nowadays terms.
Is it?
It is.
Wow, 35.
So that's 35
makes
is when
sense,
you're
yeah.
middle age.
Yes.
And then 60 is when you are considered geriatric. But obviously it depends on geriatric for what.
That's an interesting, that's a word I hear you say a lot. You're the only person I hear say that word, geriatric. Even though I have heard it in other places.
My dad says it. That's where I get it from.
Oh, wow.
And in medical terms, if I have a kid after the age of 35, I'm considered a geriatric mother. So that's... I'm not near there yet, but that's... Ooh.
I'll have to edit that out. Sorry. Look at those coughs.
Yeah.
Gonna blow someone's earbuds. Okay, so maybe just start off from that point about if I'm after 35, I'm considered.
So after the age of 35, if you have a kid, you're considered geriatric. It means that you're at a higher risk for things like issues in your pregnancy. You have to be monitored a little bit more closely. Look, I'm not a medical doctor, so I let me preface that. But I obviously had to look into it a lot because when we were planning out how many kids and when we're going to have kids, I kind of cut my limit there because I don't want to deal with the complications that come with it. Yes,
after that age, so being geriatric
brings
with it complications for being a mother.
Yeah. Birth. I already have complications because of our kids. If I'm to have another future kid, it is most likely going to be another cesarean. Like that's been discussed. We've discussed that. I've come to grips with it, but that's already a risk. We have to schedule it. There's certain recovery risks. It's a major abdominal surgery. So there are already risks. Now add 10 years to my current age and we're having kids at 37,
Geriatric.
now I'm geriatric. Now there's additional risks. Down syndrome could be a problem, things increase in possibility because of the risks, like clotting factors, etc. And I just would rather not deal with that. And the risks already associated with pregnancy are wild.
Okay, so what was the reason we brought up geriatric?
You brought it up because I was talking about it. Because I said the word geriatric and then you focused on it.
And what was the context of you bringing it up? Because I started coughing.
Yeah.
You didn't see it, people watching, because I cut the video, but I had this terrible cough that came up. I had to cut it, so I actually kind of lost
you
track.
You said
of
I'm one of the few people that say the word geriatric.
Okay, but anyway, maybe that's a good point for us to move on to maybe a different topic.
Yeah.
What's wrong with women today, and what's wrong with men today, in your opinion? As my wife, I'm just curious, and then I'll tell you what I think.
So
we'll do one at a time.
If I'm gonna give you one word answers, what's wrong with women today? Birth control. What's wrong with men today?
Jeez,
what's wrong with men today? They say yes to women all the time.
Interesting.
So not one word answers, but so what's wrong with women today? Birth control affects women negatively.
But surely it's not.
It's not just birth control. Women today are also.
When you say birth control,
okay, so
I mean hormonal birth control.
Hormonal birth control affects the body negatively. I was on it for all of 10 years. And I would never go back on it because it affected me in ways I didn't realize until I got off of it.
So you're speaking from experience?
I'm speaking from experience.
And then there's all this new research that's been coming out in the last 2 years that's kind of shocked people, right?
So I'm obviously not saying that people should go around just sleeping with people and getting...
Of course.
Without any protection or whatever.
But that's a different conversation.
And I also understand that people go on birth control for things like skin and whatever, but there are ways around that. Making your cycle more regular, again, ways around it. Again, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm just speaking from personal experience and what I went through when I was on birth control.
That's just in your opinion... Yeah. We don't know the effects of birth control on women in the large sense, right?
Yeah.
Like for the most part. We don't know...
Also, if I speak about it personally, I was...
But why is birth control? I mean, I know you wanted to speak from personally, but just why? Why is it the biggest problem that you think?
Well, for a few reasons. So, one, typically we fall into a cycle. When you are on birth control, you miss out on 4 of your cycles. You're not going through the different energy cycles that you would go through.
Different energy cycles? Do you mean the different phases?
Yeah, so you have 4 phases in a cycle. You have your follicular phase, your ovulation phase, your menstrual phase, and your... I can't remember.
Okay,
there's one more. There's a name for it. But... you go through all these phases, and in each phase you have different levels of energy, you have different levels of ability. So, for example, in your ovulation phase, you have the most energy. You're able to lift more people do strength training.
Really?
They do strength and cardio. They have more energy. They can do more tasks.
Okay.
If you're, for example, planning your meetings, you should be planning it in that phase because you have...
you're more likely to be a go-getter.
You're more likely to be a go-getter,
Okay.
If you are in your menstrual phase, it should be considered rest. If you're doing...
Okay. But women are not even, don't even think about this because
that's completely wiped out with birth control. You have 3 weeks of the month that you are in one phase, and then you have your menstrual phase. And often that one phase is similar to the cycle of man.
Try not to hit the table because
that one cycle is considered like that of a man. So instead of having these gradually changing cycles, and you can prepare and you can grow, you have 3 weeks where you can do everything the same way a man would, and then 1 week where you are completely wiped out.
Okay, so I just want to say maybe 1 or 2 things. One is I think there's this tendency that I'm seeing now where a lot of men are saying the problem with men today is women.
Yeah.
And the way women are. And then I see women on the opposite side saying the problem with women today is men. So men are saying women aren't embracing the roles of a traditional woman, and therefore men are not able to fully embrace the role of a traditional man. But then on the other side of the coin, women are saying the exact opposite. So men are not being men, and so we can't be traditional women, and as a consequence, I don't like that line of reasoning, because it kind of it eliminates personal responsibility. Like if I say, oh, I would be a good man, it's just that all the women out there are the issue. And I know that's maybe an oversimplification, but I think there needs to be some personal responsibility, and there needs to be because I do really believe there are good women obviously out there, and there are good men, but yes, well, that was
saying Class B.
Well,
so, but
yeah, well,
look, so you're right. You're right.
I don't know about, I don't know about, I don't know if I would want to just say I'm a good man, just
So I can give you a breakdown on that. Yes and no. Yes, there are no good men, or the good men aren't being good men because good women aren't around, and good women aren't being good women because good men aren't around.
I don't know, when you say today in the modern world, I'm a good man, it's like, what standard are you using? Because these days, that's why I paused there for a second, because it's like, everybody's got this is the problem, is we don't have standards in society anymore. We don't know what it means to be a good man or what it means to be a good woman. Some guys will tell you it's a trad wife. Some guys will tell you it's a submissive wife. Some guys will tell you it's a woman who has a high body count. Some guys will tell you it's a woman who has no body counts. So it's like, we as Catholics have a very clear standard of what a good man is. We've got saints that we can turn to. Obviously, Christ himself is the ultimate example for men, and Mary is the ultimate example for women.
Yeah.
But
so the thing is, as religious people, it's always going to be, we have something to look up to.
Yeah.
In our society today, it's still a matter of, okay, what do you consider a good man? Most people will say a man that can take care of me, a man that can stand up for us if something happens, a man that can just be a good husband and a father. A good husband and a father. If you picture your life in the future, 10 years from now, and you're married and you've got kids and a husband, what does a good husband look like? What does a good father look like? That is what you should be emulating as a good man, right?
Yes.
So if you want to be a good man to get a good woman, you need to be someone who's strong. I mean that both physically, emotionally, and mentally. You need
healthy
to be
body, healthy mind. So if you're physically strong, generally, it's going to translate to some mental strength.
You can't be a man who's mentally weak.
No.
Because if you are someone who can be easily manipulated, easily talked into a situation, easily persuaded, a strong woman comes along and she is going to completely decimate you. She is
instead
going
of
to
working
destroy
together.
you. Yeah.
Because if you're both, but when you say strong woman, she's strong in a different way to the man.
Yeah.
But if you are weak, her strength is going to still, even though it's different, it's going to kind of run you over. You're not going to be able to,
you're not going to be able to fill that role as a man.
She's going to see all your excuses and all your, she's going to see when you're being stubborn, and she's going to see your excuses. And if she's a strong woman, she's going to say, look, this is holding you back, honey. Yeah. This is holding you back. And if you're a weak man, you're gonna get angry and resentful at her, and then it's just not gonna work.
Yeah.
But if you're a strong man, you'll be like, okay, what else have you seen?
And what other issue? Need to change?
Okay, but why is this an issue? And not just accepting everything blindly, because she might also be mistaken. Yeah. She might have seen the wrong thing. But you want that feedback from your wife or from your husband
or your girlfriend. Obviously, if you're in the dating phase, you don't want to have some soy boy. Soy boy come up to you and be like, hey, honey, it really hurt me that you did that today. And I mean, I'm all for being open about your emotions. Tell me what's wrong. I mean, I study
Yeah.
psychology. Like, it's not. It's nothing new to me. Tell me what's wrong. We can
Well, if you're
discuss it.
frustrated, you should say something.
Exactly.
That's true.
Or just if you had a rough day, come tell me. We can talk about it.
Yes.
But if you're busy crying about every person who irritated you at work, and then you come and say, "Oh, honey, they hurt my feelings," I'm gonna be like, "Listen,
Man
why?
up.
Why are you crying at every? I don't even cry at everything."
Yeah. Well, what's the
know.
female version of the soy boy? I've been wondering about this. Like, is
I
there
don't know if I can say the word. Like,
give me an
statistically a soy boy, or just like the female version of what we consider.
Yeah, like, okay, so a soy boy is like an overly effeminate man. So the opposite of that would be a woman who's overly masculine, right?
But we just consider that a lesbian.
No, but a lesbian is like a specific sexual
but the thing
like,
is,
category,
but
right? As people
typically,
use it.
most lesbians tend to be very masculine.
Yes, but not all soy boys are gay. See what I mean?
Fair enough.
So like, what is it? Just tomboy, but tomboy doesn't have tomboy's not a bad thing.
No.
I don't think it's not a bad thing to like.
No, I
But
was just told.
so I don't think there is a clear category for the opposite of a soy boy in the female sense because the dynamics are just different.
Yeah.
I'd have to think about it. It's actually a deeper question than I thought.
Yeah. No. So, like I said, I would have said maybe there is one, but I can't place it now. I can't place it now. It's not a tomboy
I'm
though.
sure it's not lesbian though.
No, it's not. It's not specifically
Yeah,
lesbian, but I've seen a lot of lesbians.
But I know why you said that.
Yeah.
I know why you said lesbian. But like,
My
yeah.
dad's got a very bad word for it, but I'm not going to
No,
use
but
it.
I know what it is. I know what it is.
yeah.
Yeah. But anyway,
Anyway, so obviously,
I love you. So
obviously, with that being said,
you should talk about your emotions, but you
should
shouldn't
talk-
be ruled by
yeah.
them.
The thing is, women aren't even ruled by our emotions.
But you're more susceptible to being ruled by
governed-
your emotions than men.
Yeah, our
Far more
emotions.
susceptible.
Yes. So, more often than not, our emotions govern our responses.
Govern.
Govern.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry,
what I
I
said.
just. Sorry. Yes.
Did I slur it a bit?
I wasn't sure if I heard you.
I said govern.
Okay.
Govern
Yeah.
our emotions.
Yeah, they govern your emotions. Yeah.
And more often than not, men's intellect will govern their decisions. So
Or
typically,
their
women,
cold logic.
yeah, your logic, your intellect, we will make decisions or choices based off of our emotions, and then think about the consequences.
So you'll rationalize your emotions. Men emotionalize their rationalizations. Oh wow, that makes
So
sense.
typically, more often,
Generally
than
speaking,
not,
everything is generally speaking.
Obviously, there are outliers.
What does
So-
that feel like though? When you say like, as a woman, you're ruled by your emotions. Can you give me like an example of that? Like as a woman, like that you've experienced. Like how does that play out in the world?
So quitting my job. Remember, I can give you an example, personal example. When I was leaving my previous job, I was so nervous about it. I kept thinking about, okay, well, what if we get pregnant? What if this happens? What if this happens? Is this going to be a good option? I'm telling you all the things that I feel about it, and then I'm rationalizing the choice by saying, okay, well, I'm making more money. I'm doing this. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be. This is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I can totally do it because of this is what we're preparing for emotionally.
Okay, so you had the emotions first.
I had the
but do you
emotions
do you ever feel like swept up by your emotions? Like you look back and you think, why did I do that? And
Yes.
you realize it was complete. Does that happen a lot?
Yes.
I mean, it happens.
happens
It
enough.
happens to
It
men.
happens enough.
It happens to men too. I mean, it's happened to me where like I look back and realize like, man, like I think for men it comes out in a different way. Like I think for men it's their temper.
Yeah.
I think a man's temper is an emotional outburst, right? Their emotions boil up and then they lose all rationality. Like
Yeah.
a guy having a bad temper will punch a hole through the wall.
Yeah.
That is not rational.
No.
That's the opposite of rational.
No.
So
But this is also what having positive outlets are. Men, so women will have a lot of minor outlets throughout. We often self-soothe. So typically, more often than not, women will rub their hands together as they talk, or they'll play with jewelry like I do.
Is carrying creams and all the various doodads women take around with them tools with which to help soothe yourself, to give yourself
I
good
think
smells and good vibes? And
it could be, but I think more typically it tends to be most of us grew up in a society where women are taught how to take care of ourselves. So
hygiene is very highly.
Hygiene is very high on that importance. So the reason why creams are so important is because we're taught to wash our hands after every bathroom use. I think everyone is, but it's almost emphasized as a woman because you have to try and avoid UTIs, stuff like that.
But why the creams and stuff? Why is that so
because
important?
Your hands get dry and ashy.
But why is that such a worry for women? Like, why do your hands have to be soft and supple? I mean, I like it as a man. Is that why?
Well,
like why? I mean, the average guy does not carry cream with him.
No.
In fact, very few guys.
But I don't
most
think...
women I know carry. Is it just because they pair their mothers?
Oh, it could be.
Has the industry brainwashed you into thinking you have to carry it?
Well, I also now as an adult I enjoy doing it.
You like the smell.
I like the smell. I like how my hands feel when they're dry. I get uncomfortable. It feels weird writing with dry hands because I'm so used to putting cream on them all the time.
Yeah. And then for me as a man, when my hands feel dry, I just run some water over them.
Yeah. But the thing is, if I run water over my hands, it starts cutting my knuckles and around my cuticles. It'll start hurting.
But I like that. It looks manly having scars.
See, this is the difference between men and women.
Well, but like men like soft because we're more hard, and women I think like hardness because you guys are a little like like a rugged man. What is rugged?
Rugged. Well, so
rugged
the reason
like
why women like rugged men is because.
But what is rugged? What do you mean by rugged?
Someone who's strong, someone who's a little bit disheveled.
When I say rugged, I immediately think of
I want to say a firefighter. You know, the typical. They used to have them in the old days. Slightly dangerous. If you've ever seen a motorcycle gang.
Yeah.
And the leader of the motorcycle gang is a little bit rough, but he's got a little beard going on, and he's built and he's strong, and
he's rugged. He's rough. He's rough around the edges.
Or if I can give you the traditional jobs, woodworker, carpenter, stonemason, blacksmith, someone who works with their hands, someone who has functional strength, is maybe not necessarily a bodybuilder, but like
definitely not.
He's strong enough to protect the family if something happens.
Yeah.
And he's gentle enough.
The ruggedness is an indicator of strength.
Yes.
And competence.
If it's not directed at you. So.
Yeah, well, you don't want them to use it on you.
That's where women get very, with the whole Me Too movement, and everyone's nervous about how it'll affect them, how they're going to be hurt. A lot of women tend to be very scared of rugged men.
Well, I don't think so necessarily. I think that they might. I don't know. I think women are still very much into rugged men.
No, I'm trying to finish my point here.
Sorry, love. Go for it.
Now in society, a lot of women are saying they're terrified of men, right? Oh, I'm so scared of men because of what men do to women. Men hurt women on a daily basis. This is the fear. But if you look at it, a lot more women who aren't on birth control, by the way, will tend to go for more rugged men. They'll enjoy the man who's a little rough around the edges. Often women will make the choice, or they'll say that it's a choice of, my baby daddy was, this tough, muscular man. He was like a rugby player, or he was one of these muscle men, and he just left me for someone else. Not that it's good, but those rough around the edges, kind of bad boy, typically not the best decision to make.
Yeah.
Are typically what women go for because of two things. oh, I can change him.
Beauty and the Beast.
I can change him. He's rough. He's a little bit, rough and tumble. I can change him. He'll be soft for me.
Yeah, but I think that's it. That's maybe more accurate than I'll change him. It's less like a home decor job. It's more like if the home, because he's so rough, I want him because he can protect me and he's competent and he gets respect from other men. So that's attractive. But at the same time, if he is like that and he's willing to make exceptions for me, how much more is that an indication of his love?
Well, yes. So how much more is...
Does that make sense?
Yes and no, because at the same time, even if I can say, okay, well, he's changed for me. He's become soft for me. He loves me. That's not always the case. Sometimes a woman will be dating, they'll go on a couple dates, and I'm not even talking about long term. I'm saying you met some 6 foot something muscular man at the bar the other night, and you can already see he's trouble from the get-go.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, well, she said he's trouble. All these I hear all these stories about him, but maybe I'm the one that he's going to be different with.
Yeah.
That's not.
I bet you say that. Me. I bet you say that to all the girls.
I bet you say that to all the girls. I'm sure that happens with everyone that you meet. You know? It's that kind of.
And then she wants him to say, no,
it's just for you.
But in that, it's implicit that he meets with a lot of women.
Exactly.
But this is like with you, it's something
but
unique.
It's with you, it's something different.
But of course, he says that to everyone.
Not always. Look, there are situations where it is.
Hope.
That's the hope.
That's the hope.
You know?
That's the hope. And
typically, you've been using the word a lot. Typically, it's dependent on a guy's riz, a guy's charisma, on how.
I taught you that word.
You taught me that word
as a curious onlooker of online linguistics or whatever you want to call it. But, I would. He has a bachelor's degree in quantum physics.
So
yes,
obviously in that
his
situation,
his sexual appeal,
his charisma, this attitude that he has is typically more attractive. But now, and this is why I said with women who aren't on hormonal birth control, that does differ. Typically, women who are on hormonal birth control will look for someone a little bit softer, a little bit less rugged, a little bit less aggressive, maybe. And
that, to my mind, based on what I've seen, it has been pretty much proven conclusively in the last few years that it does affect what they're attracted to.
But also remember, the type of stability that they look for is different as well. Obviously, I'm not going to go into it too much. We've discussed my sort of dislike of it. But with that being said, the women nowadays are tending to pick different types of men. And I don't think it's all the women. I also don't think it's as big a number as we're seeing. But typically more women are either becoming more independent, more...
Just the way you said that.
I'm searching for the word. I don't want to use
I'm
either independent or like more self-assured. They're standing alone. A lot of women aren't getting married as young as they typically would have.
Men too.
But
people in general.
For men, it's not as big an issue.
That's true.
If a woman's only getting married at 35 and
wants to have a huge family,
for example, like I mentioned earlier with the geriatric mother, it's like if you're only getting married at 35, you're considered geriatric by that age. If you want to have kids, if you want to have like 4 kids and you're only getting married at 35 and you want a year before you plan to have kids, you're geriatric. You're going to be monitored very closely. You're going to be taken care of very closely before you can even have the kid. And that's if you still have viable eggs.
Yeah, but bear in mind, there are women who, through no fault of their own, just don't meet the right guy necessarily until that age, and they might still be able to do it. And even women who maybe did the wrong thing and then do meet a guy at 35 and then do want to settle down. Because I think what's happening now is like, it's always been this kind of pressure on men, like you need to settle down.
Yeah.
Like, when are you going to be ready to settle down? I think that conversation is now beginning to apply to women.
The thing is, that's always been applied to women.
When are you going to settle down?
That's always been from like the age of...
But when are you going to get off birth control is the real question.
When are you going to get off birth control is the real question.
No.
But I got told from like age 20, you need to finish your studies so that you can settle down, get into a nice family. You know, once you're obviously established, then you can start your family. You know,
when am I gonna do all this?
Yeah, like it's like
you want me to do. Women are
kind of being told, settle down after you get your life in order. Just get your life sorted first, then you can settle down and you can have.
But there's a clock.
But there's a clock. Yeah. There's a clock coming. You know. Yeah. And then it's like, okay,
by the time you get your PhD, it's like,
if you're lucky, you're getting your PhD by 27.
Yeah, if depending on a few factors.
But that's also if you're allowed into your PhD. I've been rejected because of, well, not my PhD, but I've been rejected for masters because I didn't have, because I was too young.
Yeah.
That's, then it's like, okay, well, I need life experience, but I can't practice without life experience. So, where does it go? So there are a lot of things that go into it. And then you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, how am I supposed to do all of this, get life experience, get work experience, and still have kids before the time I'm 35? How is that supposed to fit into my life?
Yeah.
And then still manage to do both.
So you kind
be
of
a mother
have to choose.
And a wife, and you have to choose.
And you have to compromise.
And the thing is, you can study, have a job, and live, work, have your own life.
You're proof of that.
As long as you are willing to sacrifice it. Because once you have a kid, the drive for your own goals, the drive for your own wants, the drive for your own needs drops tremendously. I can promise you now, I do not care about my own life. I do not care about my own success anymore. All I want to see is our little girl's dreams and hopes and future come true.
Same.
That is literally, I
only care about my goals insofar as they
help her.
Yeah. Insofar as they allow me to create an environment in which she can get the education she needs.
Yeah.
She can get the opportunity she needs.
So and this is the thing I want for her. I as a mother, personally, as a woman who is in today's society, I don't necessarily want her to get married and have that life, and but I also don't necessarily want her to only be a person who studies for the rest of her life. And
wait, what do you mean you don't necessarily want her to be a person who gets married?
I'm going to explain.
I know what you mean, but just for anybody watching.
I don't necessarily want my kid to go and live a married life. So we're all called to something. We're either called to a religious life, we're called to a marital life, we're called to something. Yeah. Everyone has a calling.
Yeah.
It is...
a vocation.
It's a vocation. We were called to marriage, and that doesn't mean that we don't have things that we enjoy, that we are pressed by the Lord to do.
She might be called to a vocation of the religious life.
She might be called to...
So that's what you mean.
But also, if she's called to a religious vocation or she's called to a marriage vocation, I don't want to press that on her and say, okay, you have to settle down and get married. Okay, you have to settle down and go to the convent. Okay, you have to go study for 10 years before you can settle down and get married. No.
Or you shouldn't have kids, you should just focus on your career.
I want to give her a life where she is able to choose. That if, for example, she gets married to someone, there is always something to fall back on with us.
Yeah.
If, God forbid something happens and she doesn't get married, or she doesn't go to the convent, or she only works and she isn't able to find the right man, or whatever, there is always a place to fall back on.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that's actually a good place to end.
Yeah.
We're on an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You should start your own podcast.
Really?
Yeah. I think you do a good job. because you have a lot to say. I feel like I'm too docile in conversation to really like
push me.
Yeah, I feel like you almost should hang out and talk to other women. You guys could probably like have some good conversations.
Do you feel like I'm crossing the line on some of my ideas?
No, I just think you're saying what you believe to be true, which is good. And maybe here and there I'm mistaken or you're mistaken, but I think that's how you learn. Like you say something, and if it's wrong, you go back and you learn. And if you say something and you think it's true, but you're you sound like you have a lot of conviction. It's something I love about you. And yeah, I think we definitely do this again. Thanks so much for your time.
Anytime.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
And,
That was nice too.
Oh.
You were coming in for a kiss.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Great. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. And thank you for being a channel member. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. And let me know in the comments if you'd like to see my beautiful wife some more. That sounded weird. If you'd like to have see another conversation with the two of us.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye.